Okay. I've had a request for a video like this for a while now, so I'm excited to do this. So basically, I have a million clients who have been working from home for the past 2.5 years, and I continue, it's like over 2.5 years, right? I don't know. Anyways, this pandemic is going on for a very long time. And so if you're working from home, are probably very tight in a lot of the same areas as everybody else who's working from home. So when I see somebody walk in, I can usually tell right away that they've been working from home, and I can generally take a guess of how they've been sitting at their desk, even standing desks. If you're standing at a standing desk without the proper footwear on, you're still going to be messing with your back a bit, and probably leaning forwards and all that. So hopefully this is helpful to you. And I originally had started this video and I stopped because I was like, okay, I need to backtrack. Because if you've been working from home for a long time and you haven't been moving and you haven't been stretching, then chances are when I started the last video by rolling all the way forward, and I realized even people doing that now, hands might not even come close to the ground, legs might not even look anywhere near straight. So we're gonna start, I'm restarting in a different way. So all you need is some pillows, you need a chair, and then you need a wall. You don't even need a mat. Like these are things that you should be able to do when you're at home. Take a break, do a couple of these if you can. If you can do the whole thing daily, please do. Okay, so go ahead and grab just a chair or find a surface that is about hip height. So that can be like a countertop, whatever's available to you. Just make sure it's about hip height. All right. And then from here, you're going to bring your forearms onto the chair. So, or the counter, whatever stable surface you're on, and just place it between wrists and elbows, okay? And then you're gonna lock your feet back until your arms are straight. Your feet are directly underneath the hips. And then at this point, bend the knees if you need to, right? So if you're working from home and you're sitting a lot, then your hamstrings are insanely tight, right? So because they're stuck in that contracted position all the time, that pulls, your hamstrings contract that way, they stay that way. So it's very difficult to try and stretch them straight if they're stuck in that position all the time. So if it's very uncomfortable, walk your feet a little bit in, keep the knees bent, and then just hang out there for a second. So that's the legs, right? From here, you want your arms to be straight. So if you're sitting, you're probably rounding forward. If you're on a computer all the time, your upper back is probably rounding forward. Your shoulders are rounding forward. So we start to get a bit hunchy in the upper back, right? And we don't want that rounded forward. We want to make sure that we can get our spine in the position that it's supposed to be in. So straight arms here. Start to bring the chest down, get heavy there. Bring that chest down towards the floor, and you're going to feel that big stretch through the shoulders, through the back, right? We want to get it in a position where it's supposed to be. So if you're rounded forward all the time, we want to bring the shoulders back and we want to bring the chest forward. So it might not look like a lot on your end, but it might feel like a ton on your end, right? So just hang out here. Keep taking nice deep breaths in and out. Good. Big inhales in through the nose. You can exhale through the mouth. Good. And then just make sure you're not overly extending through the low back, right? You want to pull those abs in and you want to keep that spine neutral. Good. And then just keep taking a couple more deep breaths here. Big inhales in. Big exhales out. See if you can get a little bit more movement through the upper back. Again, stretching takes time. It's taken us a while to get into this state, right? I keep getting new clients, still keep getting new clients who haven't moved and in the last 2 years, right? Just being isolated, working from home, we start to get accustomed to those behaviors, and then it takes a lot for us to come out of it. So I applaud the people that are coming out and being like, hey, I haven't moved in 2 years, it's time. My body is a mess, I need to fix this. So it's very important. And if you're going to continue to be working from home, you want to make sure that your body's going to be in a healthy state. Otherwise, the longer it goes on, the worse it's going to get, the longer it's going to take to fix it. But go ahead and take one more big inhale in. Big exhale out. Good. Now from here, I want you to keep your forearms on the chair. I want you to round the back. So round the back towards the ceiling, drop the head. And then extend through the spine again. So bring that chest forward. Good, do that again, round the spine towards the ceiling. So think about bringing the very center of your back up towards the ceiling like a cat. And then extend through the spine, bring the chest forward. Good, one more like that, round the back. Good, extend through the spine. Good, and then from here, very carefully bring your hands to the surface and bring yourself all the way up, coming out of that. All right, we'll put our chair off to the side, and then just find a wall that you can bring your legs up to. Okay, so I'm gonna be laying this way. So go ahead and take a seat facing your wall. And then you're gonna bring your butt as close to the wall as you can. So bring the knees out to the side. Again, it may be difficult for you to get down onto the floor and move yourself into these positions. So just take your time getting into position. I see everything. So I've literally seen, 30-year-olds who have a very hard time getting up and getting down from the floor, or getting down to the floor and getting up from the floor. And then I've seen 70-year-olds who can move with ease. So it's very much, what we're doing to our bodies throughout life. So you're gonna lay down on your back. You're gonna bring your legs up the wall. So get those legs as straight as you can. Bring your butt all the way up to the wall if you can. And then you're just gonna keep the feet neutral for now. So don't worry about anything else except keeping those legs as straight as possible. And then you can just relax in this position, right? So you can bring your arms out to the side, let the palms open up towards the ceiling. It seems silly, right? But it's much easier to do this stretch this way than if you were sitting upright and then trying to fold over your legs, right? Because that just becomes a whole mess on the hamstrings. Or it's like a lot of work on the hamstrings if you're nice and tight. So this is just a passive stretch where you can keep your legs straight and they can kind of loosen up a little bit. Good, and then go ahead and flex the feet here. Flex those feet, quads engage, right? And then hamstrings stretch a bit. And then go ahead and just point the feet. Good. So trying to bring your toes to the wall, right? So bring those big toes towards the wall as best you can, keeping the heels on the wall. And then flex the feet again, toes towards you. And then point through the feet, bringing those big toes, try to stretch those toes to the wall. One more time, flex the feet. Point through the feet, stretch through the front of those ankles. Good, and then go ahead and bring those feet into a neutral position again. All right, from here, you're gonna start to open those legs out to the side. So just go to a point that feels comfortable. Hang out there. Just take nice deep breaths in and out. Again, keeping those legs straight, right? Trying to keep the calves, think about pressing the calves into the wall. Whether they touch is a whole other story, right? At this point, we're just trying to get those legs straighter. And we're trying to do it in a way where we don't have to strain so bad. Good, see if you can open those legs a little bit further. And just breathe in that position. So if you get to a point where it feels just like too much, bring it back in. Otherwise, hang out in that position. It might feel uncomfortable and that's okay. Just keep taking nice deep breaths in and out. Again, stretching, you want to remain calm, right? So nice long inhales in, long exhales out to try and let those muscles stretch and relax. Good. And then just continue to keep opening those legs a little bit wider. And you're going to start to feel that stretch through the inner thighs, right? Maybe you already feel it. But it's okay. Just keep breathing through it. Again, if it becomes unbearable, bring those legs in a little bit closer. Back off a little bit. You are in control of your body, right? Good. But if you can, take it a little bit further. Good. And then keep the feet flexed. Keep the feet parallel. So what I mean by that, don't let the feet open all the way out, right? That'll take you out of the stretch a little bit. So keep those hips parallel and centered. We will turn out in a second, but for now, just keep them parallel. So another thing that happens that has nothing to do with work from home. Sometimes people walk with a turnout. Right? So I always tell those clients, try to bring those toes forward as you're walking around. So if you notice when you're walking or even when you're standing, if your feet, your knees, your hips start to turn out a little bit, which is it's very, very common. Maybe just try to bring those feet parallel and see if you can bring all those joints back into alignment. people's anatomy forces them to just kind of sit that way, but just try to bring everything back to center if you can. Good. Wherever you're at, stay there. Now I do want you to open up the hips. So the reason why your feet turn out is probably coming from your hips, right? Because your hips turn out. So just turn out the hips there. That means the knees turn out. That means the feet turn out, right? And then go ahead and bring your feet, your knees, your hips back to center. Do that again. Open the knees, open the hips. Feet will turn open because of that, right? Good. 2 more like that. Back to center. Turn out again. So if your feet have a tendency to turn out, that turnout probably feels more comfortable than bringing your feet to center, right? Good. On this next one, you're going to open up the hips, open up the knees, open up the feet, hang out there, breathe there. Good. Again, nice deep breaths in and out, keeping those legs as straight as possible so you're still feeling that stretch through the hamstrings. Good. Big inhales in. Big exhales out. Another thing to think about while you're in this position is lengthen through the back of the neck, right? So when we're working from home, right, we were usually rounded forward. That means our chin's usually coming forward and our necks are just rounded in that position. So just bring the chin slightly toward your chest. Ears should be in line with the shoulders. So you want to think about that positioning too. And then just breathe. You should be fully relaxed here. I mean, legs might not be. Let me rephrase. In the upper body, you should be fully relaxed. Good. So again, nice deep breaths in and out. Big inhales in. Big exhales out. Good. And then from here, go ahead and bring your knees, your hips, your feet back to center. You can help your legs back up the wall. Hang out there for another breath. So big inhale in. Big exhale out. Good. And then from here, let's just roll onto our right side, bend the knees. And then you're just going to help yourself up. So use your hands, help yourself up to a seated position. All right, so we're going to stretch through the side body now. So you always want to be able to kind of move through your spine in all the directions that it can move. So you have lateral flexion, you have forward flexion, you have extension, and then you have rotation. So we always want to be able to move the spine in all those directions. And we always want to be able to stretch those ways so that we can ensure that our spine can continue to move that way. So we'll do mermaid stretch, which is a Pilates stretch. And the positioning of the legs is you're going to bend your right knee. Your right foot comes to the top of your left thigh. That left knee is bent, and then your left shin is basically parallel to the short edge of your mat. Now, if this is not comfortable, which I understand is not comfortable for a lot of people because we have really tight hips, then you can stack the legs. That's a little bit better. Do that. All right. Otherwise, you can cross the legs. If that's comfortable, it might not be. If hips are tight, your legs might look like this. So you can also place pillows underneath your knees to bring you close. Again, bring the floor closer to your knees. So whatever your comfortable seat is, do that. Okay. You can also sit down in a chair. We know you're comfortable in a chair because you work from home and that's the position that you're always in. So if you want to take a seat in a chair and just do the side bending that way, we can do that. All right, here we go. If you're doing full mermaid sit, which is what I'm going to do, or any leg variation, you're going to want to take your left hand to your left ankle. So again, the feet point in the left direction, right? So legs point at angle. All right, take your right arm out to the side, so right fingertips down on the floor. Turn your palm open towards the ceiling. Again, left hand, left ankle, or if you are in cross-legged position, left hand is on the floor, okay? All right, from here, you're gonna reach your right arm up to the ceiling, stretch up tall, and then you're gonna side bend over, pressing away from that left side. So we don't just collapse, right? That does nothing for our side body. I mean, it does a little bit, but not as much as we can. So that right arm is extended, it's nice and strong. Think of this, your fingertips, as an extension of your right hip. So pretend that this is all connected because guess what? It is all connected, so you don't have to pretend. So this arm stays nice and strong. You reach up and over, so you can get that big stretch through the ribs, through the side body. Breathing there. Good. Just hang out there for a second. Good. Go ahead and come on out of that. We'll do that 2 more times. Big inhale. Reach up tall, exhale, strong arm, side bend over, take it with you. Good, we'll do one more like that, big inhale breath. Exhale, stretch up tall to the ceiling, side bend over, again, pressing away from that ankle, from the floor, whatever you're doing. Your hand can be on the side of the chair, right? And you can be side bending over. You can do this at your desk. You can do it seated, right? Just make sure that arm stays nice and strong. Make sure you don't collapse on that left side. Good, and then go ahead and come on out of that. Let's do the other side. All right, so just switch the positioning of the legs, right? They bend in the other direction this time. And then if you're really lifted up through that right hip, try to anchor down through both of those sits bones. Might not be able to do that because again, hips, everything's really, really tight, right? Place your right hand on your ankle or the floor or the side of your chair, whatever you are sitting on, do that. Left arm reaches, out to the side, left palm reaches up to the ceiling. You're gonna stretch, reach up tall, press away from the floor, away from that ankle, and side bend over. Again, think of your left fingertips as an extension of your hip. So you have this beautiful arcing position, and you should feel this all the way down into that hip. Good, come on out of that. Let's do that again. Big inhale. Exhale, stretch, reach, side bend over. Good, you have one more here. Big inhale in. Big exhale, stretch, reach up tall. Side bend over and just hold it. Breathe. Big inhales in. Breathe into the rib cage. So feel those ribs expand on those inhales. Contract on the exhales. Good. And then go ahead and come on out of that. Okay. Let's come on up. Let's stretch the legs a little bit more with the chair. So I'm going to get the pillows out of the way. So grab your chair again. Okay. So again, you have two different heights here, so that's going to be perfect for whatever level of flexibility you are at. Again, you can find a smaller surface, a shorter surface. If you're going hip height, that's going to be for those that are a bit on the more flexible side. Otherwise, use the seat of the chair, which is usually lower, right? We want to go as low as you need to, okay? So I'll start by the shorter distance, and then we can take it up to the higher distance. So we'll start with the left leg. If you need something to balance with, hold on to your wall, take your left leg up onto the chair, right? And then from here, keep your left foot flexed, get that left leg as straight as you can, keep your right leg as straight as you can. It seems simple, but these are just stretches that we should incorporate to our everyday life, which maybe you just don't even think about because you're working so hard, right? And then you're like, I'm done with work, I don't want to stretch. So just do this throughout the day if you can. Okay. So again, we need to straighten out those legs because if you're sitting for most of the day, they're going to be in that bent position, right? It's when your stupid iPhone is like stand. And sometimes you're standing and it's like stand. I wish the iPhone was as smart as it makes it seem it is. Okay, here we go. Hate it when it tells me to stand. Okay. I'm standing. I've been standing. I'm standing. Can't I just take a break, Apple Watch? All right, here we go. You're going to fold forward from the hips. Again, keep that left leg straight. Think long spine. So I'm not just rounding over, right? You're in that position all day long. So longer through the spine. Hinge forward. Keep a hand on the wall if you need to. Breathe into the back of the leg. If you can place a hand on the chair, on the seat, do it. If you can place another hand on the seat, do it. Chances are your right leg might look like this at this moment, right? And if that's the case, maybe find a shorter surface. Maybe just be in this position and don't even fold forward, or just start to fold forward a little bit, right? So it's varying levels of degrees, right? I've seen literally everything and nothing surprises me anymore. So I know what your body potentially looks like at this moment. And zero judgment, because life has been very hard for the last several years. So now we're like coming out of this lull that we were in where we weren't working as much. Maybe that never happened to you, but for me, from my personal career as a Pilates instructor, I've definitely hit a lull. And now coming out of it and everybody's coming out of it and everybody wants to do fitness again, now we're working twice as hard, right? So you're probably working long hours, working from home, you're not walking to the office, you're not walking home from the office. So there goes half of your movement, right? So we just gotta fix our bodies. We gotta do better. Good. So you're just gonna hang out here if this is cool for you. You can also bend into the right knee. It's gonna take you out of that stretch a little bit in the left leg. Good. If this is not enough for you, then you can come to the back of your chair. Make sure it's not higher than your hips, because that would be crazy. Well, we want to make sure that we're doing this. So again, use the wall if you need it to for balance. Left leg nice and straight, left foot nice and flexed. Again, if this is okay for you, cool. You can start to fold forward. Again, you can keep a hand on the wall if you need it, or you can take the hands to the chair on either side of that foot and then just breathe there. Again, keeping that foot flexed, keeping that leg as straight as possible. But notice, so you also might hyperextend your joints. So if that's the case, when your leg is fully straight, if you notice that there's a little extra press back of that knee, it's hard for me to demo because I don't have hyperextended knees, but if you notice there's like a little press back of that knee and it looks more like it's the knee's dipping down, then just put a tiny little bend in it, right? So that it looks, I want to say like a normal knee, but it might be normal for you to hyperextend, but we don't want to hyperextend the joints, right? So just keep it in that neutral position and then just breathe. Breathe into that hamstring. Again, took a long time for your hamstrings to get like this, so it's going to take a long time to stretch them and to try and get them straighter. So it takes work, it takes practice daily, especially if you're just working from home and doing the same thing every day. So we'll just stay here for a couple more breaths. Big inhales in. Big exhales out. Good. And then go ahead and help yourself. Help yourself, right? Good. Let that go. And then just notice the difference side to side, right? So one leg, left leg might feel longer than the other. That's just what happens with stretching. So let's do the other side and even ourselves out. And this side might feel easier because left leg's a bit looser now, right? So if you're going from the front of your chair, right foot comes onto the seat, flex through the foot, keep the leg straight. Again, hand on the wall if you need it. If you're here, you're here. If you're here, you're here. Stay there, just keep breathing. And then if you can bring your hands to the chair, go for that. Good. And then if you need to bend that bottom leg, by all means, the most important part is keeping that right leg as straight as possible and keeping the toes flexing back towards you. And again, not rounding and collapsing, right? So keep a long spine. Because again, we're trying to train your back to normal too, right? Because over time, your vertebrae and your upper back just gets so stiff in that position, and it prevents a lot of movement. It really does. So just breathe here. But if you were up on top of the back of the chair, then go for it there. Again, don't force anything that isn't going to happen. If you're on the seat of the chair today, if you're staying upright like this and just trying to get your legs straight, that's where you're at today. And you'll notice progress, right? If you keep doing this, if you keep doing the homework and you keep stretching, then eventually you'll know the steps, right? You can go from the lowest part of the chair to the highest part of the chair. So you have different stages here. So hopefully you'll watch this and then you'll watch it again. And then you'll notice that some things become much easier over time, right? Again, so just think about these positions, think about how you can incorporate them in your day. Get up, move around, not when your Apple Watch tells you to, but when you can. Good. Also, there's like a study, there's several studies that I reference all the time, but one of them was like, if you lay on the couch and you just watch TV for hours on end, you have a greater increased risk of dying, we don't want that. We don't want a greater increased chance of dying. We already have that just by living, right? So we don't need to increase our odds. All right, go ahead and come on up. That was so profound. Okay, here we go. We're gonna stretch your quads next. So that's the front of your legs, right? So the back of your legs are probably really tight. The front of your legs, maybe not as much, but always good to just stretch everything we can. Also, hopefully your legs are feeling a little bit looser than they have in a while. But we also have really tight hip flexors if we're working from home. So that's the front of your hips, right? Again, they're stuck in this contracted position all the time. And they get really weak because they're not actually doing anything, right? You're just sitting. All right, so we're gonna stretch your quads. So bring yourself, back it up to your wall, right? I have my door, so it's gonna make a little gap. Okay, hold on to the back of your chair. Depending on how tight your quads are and how stiff your knees are, because they might be stiff too, you're gonna bend your knee. You're gonna bring your foot up against the wall behind you, already you might be feeling a really, really deep quad stretch, right? You want to angle that knee down towards the floor. And then if this is already too much, change where you are in space, right? So you can move your chair forward, bring the foot back, and the further away from the wall you are, the less of a stretch you're gonna get. But then if you wanna make it more intense, lean back towards that wall, and then you're gonna get that deeper stretch. Just keep trying to angle the knee towards the floor, right? And then you're just gonna feel this stretching through the front of the leg. And just breathe. Again, keep that spine nice and upright, so reaching the crown of the head towards the ceiling. Good. We'll just stay for a couple more breaths. And if any of these stretches feel like you can do this for longer, by all means, hang out in those stretches for as long as you want, as long as feels comfortable. Do that. All right, let's switch legs here. Again, just getting those muscles longer, taking them out of the position that we are torturing them in every day. Good. Again, angle your knee down. So try to line up your knees, right? Of course, if you're more forward and you're just stretching that way, your knees might not line up, but you do want to angle the knee towards the floor as best you can. And then make sure you're not overly arching the back when you're doing this. So keeping the low back neutral, which is just that normal natural curve. You're not forcing anything. You're not bringing your chest forward. Good. And just breathe. So that it requires a little bit of pulling the low belly in as well. Good. And then if you want more, you can always lean towards the wall. Let's take nice deep breaths in and out. Okay. And then just make sure your hips are square as well. So you might be dipping one hip down, one hip up. Try to keep them both pointing and on the same plane. Good. We'll stay here for one more big inhale in. Big exhale out. Good. And then carefully go ahead and take that foot off of the wall. Shake it out. Again, hopefully we're feeling a little bit looser. All right, go ahead and take the chair, get it out of the way. And then just have some pillows, right? Again, we're all at varying levels here. Okay, so we're gonna take a seat. We're gonna sit cross-legged. Again, everybody looks different in their cross-legged position. So your knees might be up to here, right? And that's probably feeling a little intense. So go ahead and shove as many pillows as you need underneath your legs so that they can comfortably sit in, comfortable, right? It might be very painful, but it'll be a little bit easier to let the knees sit on top of those pillows. So let's cross left leg in front of right leg. All right, and then again, bring as many pillows underneath you. If you don't need any and can sit cross-legged without a problem, but chances are your hips are really tight. And so sitting cross-legged becomes an issue, right? All right, here we go. So you might have pillows underneath your legs, you might not. Either way, we're gonna start to reach your arms up towards the ceiling. You're gonna fold forward without letting the hips lift off the ground. So your butt stays anchored to the floor. And then wherever your hands land, stay there without, again, rounding towards the floor. So lift through the chest, keep that spine long. If this is enough of a stretch for your hips, stay there. If you can, start to walk your fingers forward more, bringing your chest closer to the ground. Again, go slow. I just went real fast. Don't do that. Just start to ease into it, right? And so if you're here and you start to feel some movement as you're breathing through those hips, they start to get a little bit looser, then start to bring your fingertips forward, maybe an inch or two. And then just keep doing that, right? A little bit forward. Maybe you don't move forward at all today, and that's okay. If it's a big stretch in your hips, let it stretch. And keep trying to anchor down through those sits bones, right? So both of those bones at the bottom of your butt stay anchored to the floor. And if you notice one is lifting over the other, try to equal out the weight on both sides. And right now you might be feeling your left hip more. That's okay, we're gonna do both sides. And again, hang out in the stretch for as long as you need. Got it, so we'll just stay here for one more big inhale in. Big exhale out. So again, if you're super tight, stay here longer, please. All right, go ahead and lift your chest up. Let's switch the cross of the legs. So right leg in front of left this time. Again, maybe you have pillows underneath your legs, that's fine too. All right, here we go. Reach your arms up towards the ceiling. Hinge forward at the hips, again, long spine without collapsing. And then wherever your hands land and wherever that stretches, hang out there. Keep taking nice deep breaths in and out. If you find the space to move forward, walk those fingers forward a little bit more. And then just keep that movement going. But again, make sure that your tailbone or your sit bones are staying anchored. And just keep breathing and keep stretching forward. And maybe you don't stretch forward. It's just wherever you're at today. But I want you to remember where you're at today. And if you continue to do this, just notice if things start to improve and you notice, oh, I can actually go a little bit more forward today. Oh, I can straighten my legs a little bit more today. That's progress. We like that. Got it. So we'll just stay here for 2 more breaths. Big inhales in. Big exhales out. Good, last one. Good, and then go ahead and walk those hands back in towards you. Go ahead and uncross the legs. You can bring those legs out in front of you. Maybe they look like this. That's okay. Maybe you can straighten them all the way. Either way, just kind of shake them out a little bit. All right, so like I mentioned, your upper back is probably a little bit like this, right? And we want that upper back. It should have a curve, yes, but it shouldn't be overly curved. So yes, your vertebrae move that way, but it should be more of a natural curve. So we're gonna use the pillows. Let's start with 1 because your upper back might be super tight and this might be enough. So you're gonna lay back, just have another one nearby. So you're gonna lay back on that pillow. You're gonna have it where your upper back shoulder blades are. So mid to upper back, depending on how big your pillow is, obviously. I'm using like throw pillows that are nice rectangle size, but you can use like your bed pillow, maybe fold it up. All right, and then from here, you're gonna take your hands behind your head, elbows wide, and you're just gonna let the chest open, let your head come back. Good, and then just hang out there. Knees are bent, feet are flat on the floor. Good, and then just let the elbows get heavy, right? So take the hands, let's actually do this. Reach those arms up towards the ceiling, turn the palms to face out towards your knees, bend your elbows to 90 degrees, and then let the hands fall back towards the floor. Good, so just let the shoulders open. Breathe into the front of the body, so breathe into that chest. You can close the eyes, and then just let the shoulders open. Let the collarbones widen. You should have space between your low back and the mat, right? But make sure you're not overly arching, right? So make sure the hips don't tilt forward too much. Good, and just breathe there. And if this is not enough for you, grab another pillow, place it on top. Good. I'll do one of these with a foam roller as well, because a lot of people have them. They're a great tool to have. So if you don't have one, it's a good investment. So if you find this helpful, you might find purchasing a foam roller helpful as well. They're pretty cheap on Amazon, nothing fancy. And they come in different stiffnesses. So some of them are really hard, some of them are soft. The soft ones are nice if you're very terribly stiff. And again, if you're in this position, make sure you can rest your head on the ground. So wherever the pillows are, make sure you can rest your head on the ground and you're not, it's going to be a little uncomfortable in the back probably if you're very, very tight, but it should feel nice and it should feel like an opening and you shouldn't feel strained too bad. And again, just breathe into the chest. Think about the muscles in between the ribs, right? You want to expand there. And then hang out here for as long as you need to, right? We don't want to be hunched forward. We want to let our neck go the right way. We want our upper back to go the right way. And just breathe here. Big inhales in. Big exhales out. Good. And we don't need to stay here forever. I mean, I don't need to because we can move on to other stretches. But if you want to stay here for an extended period of time, please, by all means. This is maybe one of the better ones that you can do if you have a break, right? Because
when we drive, for extended periods of time, when we're on the computer, when we're on our phones, we just round forward and we need to open up the other direction. All right, so if you need to roll to the side, do that. Don't strain your neck coming up. So if you are going to just come straight up, use your hands to help your head, lift yourself up. Cool, and then go ahead and get those pillows out of the way. We're gonna do one more thing here. Well, we'll do two more things. So lay down on your back. Arms are down by your sides. And then we're just gonna start to move the pelvis. So you have those hip points in the front, right? Think about, or don't think about it, you have that little space between your low back and the mat. So that's your neutral spine, that little natural curve. I mean, everybody's bodies are different, right? Maybe you have a anterior or posterior tilt where your low back has less of an arch. Maybe you have an anterior tilt where you have an overly arched back. So try to find neutral where it's just a small little space, right? All right, but then from here, we're gonna tilt the hips back, pressing the low back down into the floor, right? So those hip points point back, so you're turning your pelvis this direction for your low back to enter down to the floor. And then release your hips back to neutral. Do that again. So you rotate the pelvis back, press down, back to neutral. On this next one, you're going to tilt your hips back, press your low back down. Keep that tilt in the pelvis. Start to lift your tailbone. So belly is scooped in, tailbone lifts, low back lifts, middle back lifts, and then you lift up into your bridge. Okay. So make sure you don't stick the chest out towards the ceiling. You don't overly arch the back. You just find that nice flat line from shoulders to knees. Maybe you don't even get that high. That's okay. The focus is going to be on the down. So you're going to round the upper back. So start to bring the shoulder blades down. Start to curve the back so that the middle back starts to come down. Now, if you're tight in the upper back, it might feel like just one chunk of vertebrae. Think about each individual one as they come down onto the mat. So go slow in the areas where it feels like one big piece coming down, lowering down through the low back, and then releasing your hips to neutral. Good, do that again. Press the low back down by tilting the pelvis back. Lift the tailbone, lift the low back, middle back, coming up to those shoulder blades, and then go super slow on the way down. So upper back comes down, middle back comes down. Try to press down through the low back so hips stay tilted, and then release to neutral at the bottom, relax. Do it again, press the low back down, roll up. Good, you round the spine, you roll back down. Good, and then release to neutral at the bottom. Let's do two more like that. So just getting nice movement through the spine, right? The spine should be able to move. But the longer you sit in those positions, the harder it becomes to move that spine. And we just want to have a very flexible spine to support the rest of our body and our movements, and not just stay stagnant in one position, which is normally sitting and rounding forward, right? Good. Lower those hips all the way down. Relax for a second. Now, we're going to do a low back twist. So there's a couple different ways that you can go about this. If your low back is very tight, you're going to bring your legs hip distance, and then keep the knees bent. Let your knees fall over to the right, and then your gaze goes out past your left shoulder. Okay, so that's just an easy twist. If you want to make it a little bit harder, walk those feet in a little bit closer, and then take your legs up, and then let those knees fall over to the right, trying to keep those legs stacked. Trying to keep those hips stacked, but keep your left shoulder blade down regardless. So if your left shoulder blade is lifting off the floor, then make it smaller. Move those knees a little bit further away. All right. If you have a safe low back and you want to do a big twist, you're going to cross your left leg over your right leg. Move your hips a little to the left side of the mat. Pick up your legs, let them fall over to the right. Oh, and then gaze goes out past your left shoulder. This is my favorite by far, and I always get a million sounds. And then I realized the other day that when my hips and my spine make noise, you can hear it on my recordings, which creeps me out a little bit. And I'm sorry, you might not even know what they are, but I know what they are. And it's weird, but so if you get some sounds, hopefully they feel good. We don't want unsafe sounds, right? But our bodies typically make a lot of sounds. That's the understatement of the year. Our bodies make a lot of sounds. All right, here we go. Go ahead and bring those legs back up. We'll do the other side. So again, wherever you are at in your body, do that one. So I'm going to cross right leg over left. I'll walk you through it because I realize that when I tell clients, if I take clients through exercises, when we switch to the second side, they forget everything. So if you're really tight, just let your knees come over to the left side. Don't worry about stacking the hips too much or bringing those knees straight out from the hips. Just keep your right shoulder blade down, gaze goes to the right. If you want to take it up a notch, you're going to bring those feet in closer, bring those knees up, and then let them fall over to the left. Again, trying to stack those hips a little bit better, but again, make sure right shoulder blade is anchored. If you're doing that full one, you're going to cross right leg over left. Pick up those knees, let them fall to the left. Oh. And then gaze goes out past the right shoulder. That's always the best, so good. Got it, and then just stay here for a couple breaths. Just relax, let things open up. Good, we'll just take 2 more breaths here. Good, one last big exhale. Let that go. Good, and then help yourself back up, legs back up. Good, and then we're gonna come on up off the floor, so if you need to roll to one side to help yourself up, do that. Just make sure you get up safely. Let's grab your chair one more time. All right, so grab that chair. Okay, and then let's actually use this. You can use the back of the chair if you're less flexible. If you're more flexible, you're going to use the front of the chair. Okay, so here we go. You can also use the wall, hold on to the wall while you get into this position. So left foot steps forward, right foot steps back. You're a little bit wider than hip distance, so not your widest stance, right? So just make sure both heels can stay on the floor, both legs can stay straight, and hips point forward. So again, less flexible, use the back of the chair. Balance. More flexible, use the front of the chair. Keep both legs as straight as you can. Keep both heels down, and then hinge forward. Place hands to the seat or to the back of the chair. If you're more flexible and want to take hands to the floor, by all means, but you don't have to force it, right? You're already going to feel a stretch. Just keep trying to get those legs straighter. Maybe bring the forearms to the seat of the chair. There's lots of options, right? And just notice where you're at today, because you might not be here next week if you keep doing this. Good, and just breathe. Big inhales in. Big exhales out. Good, one more time, big inhale breath. Big exhale, let that go. Good, and then go ahead and come on up. Let's switch sides. So right foot forward, left foot steps back. Again, this side might feel very different. Our bodies are very uneven. And stretching is very good at pointing out which sides are the tighter sides, right? So wherever you're at, keep your spine long, fold forward. Again, maybe forearms come to the seat of the chair. Maybe you're not even there. Maybe you're just trying to stretch that back heel down to the floor. Again, we're all varying levels, right? And I've seen it all. Every age, I've seen it all. Like zero judgment. Life has a way of ruining our bodies if we don't take care of them. So if you're doing this now, that's the most important part, right? If you can continue to do it, great. If you remember 2 things today and then you do that tomorrow, perfect. Good, keep taking those nice deep breaths, big inhales in. Big exhales out. Good, and then go ahead and walk your feet forward. Good, again, hands can stay on the chair. If you can reach down and touch the floor, go for it. Whatever works for you, do that. Bend the knees as much as you need to, though we are trying to stretch the hamstrings, so try to straighten them out a little bit. Good, shake the head no. Nod the head yes. Slowly roll up 1 vertebrae at a time. Head is last, and at the top, just roll those shoulders back and think about bringing everything back constant, right? So if you find yourself or you're sitting like this throughout the day,
bring it up and back. The more we train our bodies to do that, the better they will stay in that position. So I'll keep trying to do these if they're helpful, and hopefully we can get you a little bit straighter.